My parents found us on YouTube by accident. I don't know how it popped onto their TV. And they're like, holy shit, Tommy and Alan are on TV. And my dad's like, no, it's YouTube. My mom was like, that's so cool.
Yeah, hold on. Uh, All right, man. We're live. Episode 185, June 11th, 2020. Alan Katarski back with you. Episode 185. Took a couple weeks off because nothing was happening. But since then, we got a lot of updated news from the NBA as well as Major League Baseball. The NFL is running business as usual. Camps are opening. Offices are opening. Everything is going pretty smoothly. So we're going to bring all that back to you. Yesterday, the Yankees made a big drafting Austin Wells out of University of Arizona. Fun fact, Tom Kotarski, they drafted Austin Wells in the 35th round in 2018. So
The
the Yankees getting a
395th pick.
little deja vu with Garrett Cole drafting him out of high school and didn't sign him. Then they bring him in now. Didn't get Wells out of high school. Just bringing him in now after college. So Yankees are starting to realize, hey, go get the guy as soon as you can right now. So we'll talk about the MLB draft and everything there. But the first thing to start with is the NBA. They are going to open the bubble. They call it the bubble, but it's like, there's not going to be an actual bubble. It's going to be 22 team format. If you don't know all the rules yet, July 31st, which to me, Tom Kotarski gives players the ability to get back in shape. So if you've been at home in quarantine, eating bread, pizza, not working out, hey, you got 6 to 8 weeks to get ready before this July 31st opener. Each team is going to play 8 regular season games to kind of finalize the seeding for the playoff tournament. I think NBA, was in a position to finish the season, although I'm not 100% behind it, but I get it. They played most of their season. They played about 80% of their games, 85% of their games. So only fitting. I would be very interested if the Lakers were not in the top 8. What would that do? And I hope LeBron, as much as you love to hate on him, I hope he's not going to bang his chest about winning a championship given everything that's going on right now. I mean, it'll be a ring, but not the same as just getting 3.5 months off for an older team, getting back into it. But hey, still got to run a tournament. It'll be like kind of like a March Madness tournament. It's the hot team that's going to end up probably winning the whole thing.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. Look, I know, like you said, LeBron banging his chest. I mean, hey, look, his first title came during a shortened season. People forget. It would be fitting that he wins again here. It obviously helps the Lakers because make no mistake, in my opinion, LeBron still is the best player in the world. I think he was proving that this year. He was playing a lot of minutes, a lot of games, and I know that people forgot about him last year because they didn't make the playoffs. And the Greek Freak is the new guy on the scene, but I think LeBron put a little bit of that to the rest. They're one of the best teams in the league. I mean, Milwaukee was as well, but I think the rest absolutely helps LeBron. I mean, you got a 35-year-old LeBron James as opposed to a 20-some-year-old, Tenacumpo, who's another, superstar and who's the best team in the East. I think the older teams absolutely benefit, right? Like if you're on a team and you get a 3-month break and now you can essentially recharge, you're not running on fumes now that it's the playoffs. And like you said, I think it's right that just jump into the playoffs. 8 games, jump into the playoffs because I mean, how long are you going to stretch the season?
Yeah,
The
you really
finals, the
can. I
finals
mean,
will be going on now.
yeah, usually it's Father's Day where you can always get a good finals game, and they always get that Sunday night game, so you can watch it on Father's Day, which is always a nice gift. But the way they broke down is that they're going to allow daily COVID testing. So people are always saying, hey, there's not enough tests. There's not enough tests. Well, the NBA is able to manage enough tests. They're going to have 1,600 people on this Disney property to start. Obviously, as teams dwindle down, we go from 22 to 16. We're going to cut away 6 teams as well as all the staff and essential people that are going to be there. So that's something to take into account, that they're going to be able to test players daily and coaches to make sure that, hey, the minute something happens, we're going to be right on top of it, which is very, very important.
Uh, yes, it's important. Yeah, you absolutely have to do it. But what happens, right? Like you're in like game 3 of the first series, and you test Anthony Davis and he has COVID, and then the
So
Lakers
they
have heard.
said that it's a minimum of a 7-day quarantine if a player or coach tests positive, a 7-day quarantine. And then you would have to take 2 negative tests to be ordered to brought back.
Okay,
Also,
right. But
the
what about the people you were in contact with the last 2 games?
yeah,
You know that's why this is so tricky, and you hope that it doesn't enter the playing realm, and well, you really hope it doesn't enter anybody's life, but the playing realm in the sense that because, okay, forget the player himself, even if he's fine and healthy and he's better in 7 days. Well, what about the people that he was just banging bodies with 2 nights ago? What if they come down with symptoms in 5 days, and then the people they were banging bodies with, like it's a chain reaction, just like the first time, right? Like it was Rudy Gobert, and then it was, Donovan Mitchell, and then it was some other players, and it was 4 Brooklyn Nets, and then it was, so it's like I don't know. It's tricky, and I get it. The testing has to be done. I just don't. The testing can't stop it necessarily, and you can't keep putting the season on hold.
I was talking to one of my neighbors yesterday, walking the dog, and I said the same thing. I said, as optimistic as you want to be. And now we were talking before the show, as cases are starting to increase in all these different states, Florida included.
Yep,
Obviously, we're
Florida,
going to be in
absolutely.
the proverbial bubble that everybody talks about, but you can't. There's no real indication that this virus has slown, that we've beaten it, that we've recovered. It's still out there. It's still highly active. People are still getting it. Here in Austin, Texas, we've had 500 cases this week alone, which is almost like I would say closer to 15 to 18% of all cases in Travis County have come in the last 4 days. And you mentioned the stat similar to that in Arizona. So it's still out there. It's still active. It would be very shocking to me, Tom Katarski, that they go through this entire NBA season, playoffs. Game 7 of the NBA Finals will be on October 12th. It'll be very surprising if they can roll all the way through the next 2.5 months and not one person test positives and slow this thing up. I know they have to figure out a way to bring this together, and they will. Adam Silver, very, very, very innovative GM, really smart guy. He was the guy that kind of started this whole sports thing to say, hey, Gobert tested positive. That's it. League shut down. We're stopping immediately. A lot of other, you saw spring training. They kept running. They were playing games on the weekend. They were still going. And finally, they decided to shut everything down. And then they canceled March Madness, and everything ensued from there, all the college seasons, the high school seasons. But you think that this is enough time to prepare. 1,600 people. You cannot leave the property. They'll be tracking people on their phones. If you leave the property, you are subject to a 10-day quarantine, and you also as well need to show 2 negative tests before you can rejoin your team. So, how are you going to be able to
Bro, this
restrict millionaire
sounds
players from running
crazy.
around, hanging out?
This sounds crazy. It's just
It's a house of
it
cards.
it
That's what
sound
this is.
it,
The
you're
house of
absolutely
cards.
right. It sounds absolutely impossible. I look, I don't want to be a pessimist, but this is impossible. And I know, oh, nothing's impossible, but this is impossible. And I mean, first of all, you have men with families. Are their families get to stay there too? I guess. I mean, but do they want to stay there? So they
So the
can't.
families can't come. So here's the thing, and I'll be interested in
Jesus.
everything always comes around LeBron, right? We talk about LeBron, everything the
Well, yeah,
league
he's
goes
the
about
face.
LeBron. So 3 family members are allowed after the first round of the playoffs. So you will get the Eastern and Western Conference semifinals, the semifinals, and then the NBA finals. 3 family members. Well, wait a second. LeBron's got 3 kids and his wife. So who gets left out? You assume baby Zuri, 4 or 5-year-old daughter, gets left out because you got Bronny and Bryce, and then obviously the wife Savannah. But like 3 family members can only go. Then do we start seeing special rules? Like, hey, wait a second, this guy gets to 4, this guy gets to 5. Like, how
This
do
is
you monitor and
this is a
control all of this?
very simple. And I don't know why they haven't thought of this, because it was similar to the rule. I don't know if you heard about the boating rule in Michigan, how you had to
2 people.
choose 2 people, but like if there's 6 people living in a house, you're living in the house all day long. Why can't just 6 of you go on the boat? It should be resident people of the residence. So LeBron's family, if he has 5 family members, 3 kids, his wife, and the maid, even if they're all living under the same roof, they
Yeah.
should all be allowed to visit. Now, if you do not live at home, like your cousin can't come. Cousin has to stay home. Sorry, cuz.
By the way, and not to segue too far about, but we are going to address the MLB draft. Did you watch any of it last night?
I did not watch. I saw some clips of it though.
There was very not like the NFL where they did a good job of telling the players, hey, socially distance. MLB, they were like 20 people in certain people's living
Oh,
rooms
I saw that.
when
Yeah,
they
I
got
did see that. I did
drafted,
see that.
all
Yeah.
gathered on top of each other. And it wasn't just grandma and dad and mom, it was girlfriends, it was teammates, it was players. I mean, it just was not a good optic. I was cringing every time I saw it. Um, to say, wow, I got 20 people in this house right now, all gathered around this guy that a team is about to invest $9 to $10 million on a signing bonus, and he's hanging around right now. You know, you're gonna have to pass a couple of tests before we send you this contract to sign.
Yeah, you're right, and I didn't even think of that because I didn't watch it live, and I saw the clips, and you kind of forget about where we are, right? Because the NFL draft was smack dab in the middle of the stay-at-home orders, right? So I think
Mhm.
everybody was kind of they were just used to it. Now that the stay-at-home orders have been lifted, you see people out and about. I went to the Home Depot the other day to get some stuff for the lawn, and it was packed. So people are trying to get out of their house. People are, they're out more. The weather's getting nicer. It's even hit, 90 here in New York, where it's like, okay, you think, people equate, I think, the warm weather with this thing is gone, right?
And
And
they did said some epidemiologists have come out and said that, since it's warm and you're outside, it doesn't spread as much as being outside, but it still can spread, especially with all the protests going on right now. Everybody is so right on top of each other. The good thing, you like to see people with the mask, and you have seen that, but you're right. And you're telling Home Depot, I'm going out to the supermarket. People are just walking around with no mask on anymore.
yeah, that's crazy.
They're
See, in New
over it.
York, they're a little bit stricter in New York. You have to wear the mask and stuff, and I think that's fair. But there's a lot of people that really complain about the mask, man. It's unbelievable to me. I told you they opened up phase 2 in New York on Tuesday. I went to the barber on Wednesday, yesterday, and they're already talking about being tired of it. Like it just start like you just open your barbershop and you're already complaining, bro. Like just make your living and be thankful that you're open. Follow the rules and do what you do. Don't worry about the mask. I get it. It's not the most convenient thing in the world, but I mean, if that are we really complaining about wearing masks? Like when people have lost mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, like
Yeah.
I don't get it. And I know we're a little off topic here, but you're right. The optic of the baseball players all huddled around because there's no way they're all family, right? So they're all just coming
Yeah.
in, right? They're coming in. Even in New Jersey, New York, they've lifted the was it the gathering ban. Now you can have up to 25 and 50 people, I believe, in New York, New Jersey. So it's like people are thinking that this thing is gone, so to speak, and it's just not. And I know you said that there's some experts that say it doesn't transmit that much in the sunlight and the heat, but it's weird that all of a sudden, it's 105 degrees in Arizona and 27% of their total cases have come in the last 5 days. So look, when people congregate and people are out and people are reckless and they're around each other, this virus is still going to spread. It is not the flu. Okay. And people need to be very clear about that. But,
Yeah.
so this with
So let's
basketball, yeah, the last thing just with basketball, impossible, bro. That's the last thing I'll say. I just can't see it. I can't see getting through where no staffer. So what happens if a staffer gets it? Forget a player. If a staffer gets it, like say the trainer, but he's treating all the players, like do they even have contingency plans in place for that?
the thing that comes about is, one, you can be asymptomatic, and two, you don't see the it's not going to come up positive. If you contracted yesterday, doesn't mean you're going to show up for a positive test tomorrow. And we've seen a lot of issues with some of these antibody tests and some of these other tests where people are showing up uh that they are excuse me, they it's a false negative. It's not even
Yeah.
showing that the test is even correct. So it's real sticky. More fine print into the NBA. One team got screwed in this whole situation. Do you know who the team is?
No.
The Charlotte Hornets, in my opinion, got screwed. I'll explain how. Right, they allowed 9 teams from the Eastern Conference to get in, 13 teams from the Western Conference. So the way it's going to work is, after these 8 games are played, you're going to take the top 7 teams in each conference. Top 7 teams, they'll get in. The 8th seed, you need to have a 4-game lead over the 9th seed to just be in. If it is less than 4 games, then 8 and 9 will play in a 1 game kind of play-in, 64 and 65. All the NCAA has now done the 68 teams. You'll have a play-in for that 8 seed. Then you either get Milwaukee or the Lakers if everything stands up. But if we look at the East, right now we have Milwaukee at 1,
What an
Toronto 6.5
arbitrary
games
number.
back.
Why is it 4?
I don't know. And that's going to get tricky in the West because right now, Portland, New Orleans, Sacramento are all 3.5 games out of the 8th seed. So then what happens? 9 plays 12, 10 plays 11. Then those, I mean, we'll see. Hopefully it all even itself out with 8 games. But Milwaukee's pretty much locked in for the 1 seed. So are the Lakers. Lakers have a 5.5 game lead over the Clippers. Milwaukee is 6.5 game of the Raptors. You might have maybe a possibility of Toronto and Boston swapping 2 and 3. Miami is pretty much locked into the 4th spot. Indiana, Philly at 6. What a disappointment. Obviously had Embiid and Simmons injured. Brooklyn, 22.5 games out. But they can kind of hold on. So Washington and Orlando are 5.5 games away from each other. Orlando right now with the number 8 spot, and then Washington is 5.5 games away from them. Charlotte was only a game and a half out from Washington. So I thought there could be a situation. They go 8-0, someone goes 3-5. Now they can get into a play-in. They're only a game and a half out of that play-in game, but they let it roll. They let it rock. But in the West is where it gets tricky. Lakers, Clippers, Denver at the 3 seed, Utah the 4 seed, Oklahoma City, no Westbrook, no Durant, balling out with Chris Paul, Steven Adams, and all those guys out there. They and Danilo Gallinari, they're in the 5th seed. Houston is in the 6th seed right now, although they have the same record as OKC. Dallas at 7, Memphis with John Moran at 8. And then the biggest disappointment, you love these guys. You're always talking about how great they are. Portland is in the 9th seed right now. They're 3.5 games out of the playoffs. How is that possible, Tom Kotarski?
Well, they didn't have a full season to finish their business. They were going to get in there and make some noise. No, I don't know.
Three and
I
a half
mean,
games back. The Pelicans, 3.5 games back there in 10. Sacramento, 3.5 games back there at 11. San Antonio, who just lost LaMarcus Aldridge for the season, they're at 12, 4 games back. And then Phoenix, with those young guns, Aton, Booker, and company, they're 6 games back. So you're going to have 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 fighting to get into this spot. Obviously, they'd love to see Zion get into the playoffs in his first season. You got Memphis, some young teams, but we're going to see. The schedule's not out yet. It'd be really interesting to see. Hopefully they'll pin some of these other teams that are, 9-13 against each other. A couple of times they can cancel each other out. But and then at that point, the playoffs would start. I have the playoffs starting August 12th. And again, game 7 of the NBA Finals, October 12th. NBA draft, October 15th. And the draft lottery, August 25th. So teams that are out. Golden State, who next year will have a healthy Steph Curry, a healthy Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, right now have the worst record in the NBA. So the highest percentage, it's the top 3, I think, have it. Imagine Golden State getting the number 1 seed, the number 1 draft pick to add to Klay, Steph, Draymond, and that team. Then you have Cleveland, Minnesota, Atlanta, Detroit, the Knicks at 6, Chicago at 7, Charlotte at 8. I know I just gave you a lot of information. I mean, what are you thinking?
Well, I'm thinking that I hate the Knicks. I'm thinking that we're always like, even last year we had the highest chance to get Zion or Ja Morant. Of course, we get the 3rd pick. It was a 2-player draft in the sense that there was 2 can't misses, in my opinion. Obviously, no one's a can't miss, but you get what I'm saying. We get 3rd overall, right? Now this year, even in a pandemic, the Knicks are nowhere near the top in the sense that they're probably not going to get a top 2 pick again. And Golden State, the rich always seem to get richer. It's kind of like when Oklahoma City got, well, they were Seattle. They got Durant, right? And then they got Westbrook, and they got James Harden, and they were able to build a little mini dynasty there, even though they didn't get to win a ring. Like, when are the Knicks going to get that? Like, where is the frozen envelope? Can someone give me the conspiracy theorists? Can someone make the Knicks relevant again? Because I'm tired of getting alerts on my phone from ESPN.com about things about the Knicks, but they're not relevant. People still want to talk about the Knicks, but they stink. Stop talking about the Knicks until they're good, because it just gets me angry. Oh, the Knicks might do this. The Knicks might rebuild this way. But as far as I know you want LaMelo. As far as the rebuild goes, we'll talk about the Knicks real quick. I want them to hire uh, uh, I don't know who for a head coach, but they were saying Kenny Atkinson, Tom Thibodeau. That'd be interesting. As far as the playoff format, I don't know how it's going to sort itself out. Sheesh. I mean, you figure that the best will, the cream will rise to the top, right? But I mean, if this is like the great equalizer, like you might see stuff this year that you didn't really see or plan on seeing because it's like kind of like organized chaos. You have like these 8 games, figure out seeding, and like you said, there's teams that are 3.5 games within one of each other, and then they have to play each other to play in. And I don't know why 4 games. It seems like an arbitrary number, but hey, that's the number they're going to go with. There's just a lot of moving parts here, man. I don't know. Look, there's guys that are running the league. Adam Silver's a very smart guy. They got guys at the top that are way smarter than I am. So I'm sure they've kind of figured out the math on it. But you're right. I mean, when you're doing something like this, there's always a chance for chaos where it's like it's a perfect storm where, like you said, a team will go like 3-5 and the other one will go 8-0, and it's like they didn't really plan to that to happen, but guess what? It did. So I'm really interested to see how this goes, how the playoffs are even maneuvered, because I think the world is watching the NBA on how to reboot sports, right? Like you said, they had all these ideas, and they're kind of going to be the blueprint, if successful, on how to safely and maybe run an abbreviated schedule, whether it be for baseball, whether it be when hockey comes back. Um, I'm very fascinated. I'm even fascinated in hockey, and we don't talk hockey on the show, but the Rangers are in the playoffs now because they were one of the bubble teams. I think that's really cool that these teams that didn't get a chance to really make it in, they're forget it. Let's get them in and let's play it out and let's see what let's let the chips fall where they may. But I'm look. First of all, I'm clamoring for sports. Second of all, I just want to see something that we really never seen before, man. And I just hope it can happen safely.
Big garbage truck passing by. Obviously, now my daughter is almost 11 months, so she's crawling all over the place, yelling as loud as she can. So I have to go back to the garage to do this podcast. Big garbage truck coming by, so that's why I was on mute. But to me, you know, in the playoffs now, we'd always see those formats where it's like, oh, you play on Tuesday,
Yep.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you're off and play Thursday. Now they're saying it's only one day off. You got to bounce back. So how does that affect the team? Like even like the Clippers with a team where you have injury prone players like Kawhi, like Paul George, they're going to be in that 2 spot. How does that look? I think a team to look out for in a run and gun kind of quick thing. I'm looking at Houston to make some kind of a push one last time. I know they made a big trade. They got rid of Capella. Now they have Chris Middleton. They got Westbrook. They got Harden. They got the 3 guys that can run up and down and score and keep it interesting. And I'm also looking at Denver. Denver, then the 3 seed right now, have a game-and-a-half lead. That's something that you want to look out for. That'd be an incredible second round matchup we'd be looking at. We're looking at the Clippers versus Denver. And if everything holds up, Utah versus the Lakers in the second round. We'll see how everything else shakes up. In the East, I mean, it's Milwaukee. I
Yeah.
like Boston. Everybody loves Jason Tatum, right? It's a shame he was the 3rd pick in the draft. Probably should have been the 1st pick looking back on it now, but he's a great player. Toronto, without Kawhi, they're still making it happen with their bigs. They're going to be able to body some people around. They have a very big lineup. Miami with these guys. You got Bam Adebayo, you got Tyler Hero, you got a lot of those guys. They supposed to turn it around. Maybe he's a coach of the year candidate. And then Philadelphia. Now you got a chance, and B's going to be healthy. Ben Simmons looks like he's finally getting it back around. Can they've made some trades as well. They have Tobias Harris. They picked up the kid from Miami, Richardson. So they have a nice little run. It'll be
Yeah.
interesting. But the big story too, Kyrie came out and said he probably is not going to play in this tournament. Durant said he's probably not going to play at all either
Yeah.
way
Durant's,
because it's only
Durant's
been
not
a year
playing.
out. But if you're Kyrie, I don't understand. Or you're supposed to be a leader. You wanted to come. You didn't. You wanted to come to Brooklyn. You seem to be pretty healthy. I know he's had a couple of injuries, but you've had 3 months off. Now you're going to be in a playoff chase. Why would you not want to play in an East that some think is with anything without LeBron being there? It's still anybody's game.
Because he's Kyrie, right? Like this is exactly why, as much as Knicks fans were clamoring for Kyrie and Durant, and I think most Knicks fans were okay that they didn't get Kyrie. I think Knicks fans only kind of wanted Kyrie because it was like a package deal with Durant, and every Knicks fan wanted Durant. But this was the problem with Kyrie. Look, players of his talent level, don't just get don't just like walk away for don't get traded from Cleveland, and B, don't just walk after 1 year in Boston. It just doesn't happen. So it's his attitude. It's the being a prima donna. It's the me first mentality. Now look, if he's injured and he can't play or he can do further damage, then I rescind those words. And look, you have to plan for the future when you have Kevin Durant and realistically a better chance to win. But if there is no danger in further hurting yourself from the specific injuries he had, obviously you can get hurt any day. But if there's no further threat on re-aggravating injury, then it's kind of really no excuse. Like you came, you got the bag already. NBA contracts are guaranteed. So your coach got fired. Although everybody praised Kenny Atkinson, they underperformed this year. He gets fired. Kyrie's there. He's like Kyrie. Look, man, outside that shot in the finals with Cleveland, he's been a cancer. And I thought it was exaggerated. I thought that he learned in Boston, but if he doesn't play now in Brooklyn, I don't know, man.
He said he has a shoulder injury right now. He's saying that he's considering going to Orlando to be there as a non-active player to show support for the team. Yeah, I mean, that's cool. I mean, I don't know the shoulder, it's a very complicated injury, but
if he's hurt for real, fine. Because let's be real, Kyrie Irving's not going to win the title by himself, right? Their chance comes when Durant comes back. So if he's hurt, no problem. But if you're not hurt, I mean, you got a ball, dude. You've been off 3 months. I mean, you just do.
Time before that.
Yeah, and you got paid. It's not like you're even like holding out because this is your free agent summer. Like you got the bag already.
So who can come out of the East? I mean, are we just going to lay down?
Milwaukee.
It's Giannis's time.
It's Giannis or COVID. You know, if somebody on Milwaukee gets COVID, and I'm not joking, if that is the great equalizer. I mean, LeBron James gets COVID, the Lakers are done. Period. If Kawhi Leonard gets COVID, done. And I know any injury can strike, but this isn't an injury. This is like you said, a 7-day hiatus. Like you are 7 days gone, and you can physically still perform, but you're actually not going to be allowed to. It's almost like you're suspended for being sick, even if you're not sick. And it's the right thing, but this is so different where it's like you never know what could happen to anyone. Even if you're not injury prone, anybody can get sick. So we'll see. I think
let's say right now,
Philly's got no shot. And I know you say you liked Philly. I would say no to Philly only because they don't have shooting.
So right now, if it all goes there, I mean, there are some chances for some guys for some seeding to move around, but the way it looks in the East right now, you're pretty much, I mean, Washington has to pick up 5.5 games. And then do you like Orlando, man? They've turned it around too, but do you like Orlando or Washington in a potential 1-game playoff?
No.
Neither. Would be Milwaukee.
No, Milwaukee. What's their record? They were like 1,004. Like like they were running away as the best team in the NBA. Never mind the
Milwaukee
East. I mean,
was 53-12. 53-12. 4 games better than the Lakers, with arguably 2 of the top 5 best players in the game.
I mean, 53-12 is pretty good. You know what I mean? Like,
so we have Milwaukee moving through.
Right? I do,
and then Toronto versus Brooklyn.
Toronto. I like Toronto. You know what? They've been impressive this year. I thought that they would collapse.
Here's the matchup, right? Here are the matchups that everybody wants. Boston versus Philly, 3 versus 6 first round. No home court advantage, no traveling. Everything's in this isolated area. Boston versus Philly.
Gosh. On the surface, I like Philly. They don't have shooters, but they got.
Let's not forget that Philly was a Kawhi bounce away from going to the NBA Finals last year. Let's not forget that. So
No, I mean
Philly,
they're a good team. I'm not going
you
to
don't
sit
have
here and
Jimmy
say,
Butler now. Obviously, you don't have Jimmy Butler, who Miami has. We forgot about Miami. And then you got Miami and Indiana. I'm going to take Miami just because, again, Jimmy
yeah,
Butler, Bam
I am
Adebayo,
too.
Tyler
Yeah.
Hero.
No, I think Miami
I'm going
Miami
to
was.
take Philly over Boston. I would.
I don't disagree. I'm trying to think of Boston's
But then
roster.
the one game back to back in the playoffs is that hurt a guy like Embiid, who's also an injury prone player, and you're going to expect him to schlep through, a first round series, let alone all throughout the playoffs. Only one
and
game
and
rest in between
and,
every game.
and is a guy like Embiid, and I don't know, I haven't exactly been following him on social media. Is a guy like Embiid who has come in overweight after summers off, and when seasons start where he has to work that weight off. Is he in tip top shape? Has he been doing his due diligence? Has he been making sure that his body is in top? Because it's different for 7-footers, man. It's different for those big guys. They're just they have to work harder
He's
at
ready to
keeping their.
go. There's an article, a lot of articles saying Embiid ready to show out as NBA returns
All
closer.
right.
Embiid sends a warning shot to NBA teams to see ramps up. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna take Philly.
All
So then
right.
that would give us Milwaukee versus Miami. That's again, people forget about Jimmy Butler, how
I'll tell
great
you
he
what,
is, and the
Miami is a
defense.
good team. I wouldn't. I know I'm joking around saying Milwaukee, kind of like previous podcasts over the years, how I said it just you could just pencil in the Warriors, but Miami is a sneaky good team. You have a coach that has won a championship, multiple championships, albeit with LeBron James. He still has won. Um, that's a team. You have a defender in Jimmy Butler who gives the best offensive players problems. You have a Greek freak who is maybe one of the best players in the well, not maybe is one of the best players in the league, but is his jump shot fixed? I know during the year his jump shot percentage was better than it has been. They said his outside game has gotten a lot better. Has he still been working on that in the 3 months since? Does that go away? Is that still good? Um, Jimmy Butler, hey, he he's a good
I'm just
defender.
looking at this Bucks roster, and I misspoke earlier. Middleton, it's Covington that they traded to the Rockets. So it's Covington, Westbrook, and Harden. But you got Chris Middleton, Eric Bledsoe, Antetokounmpo, George Hill, veterans, won championships. Kyle Korver, big game shooter. Robin Lopez, Frank Mason, who used to play on the Knicks, Marvin Williams was the number 3 pick overall. It's nice. This is a stacked up team. I'm gonna take Milwaukee to get to the Eastern Conference Finals, and then I got them playing. I got them playing Philly. I got Philly beating Toronto. So I got Milwaukee versus Philly in the Eastern Conference Finals. And then obviously as we get further, we'll make further predictions. But for the East right now, I got Milwaukee and Philly in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Uh,
Embiid is healthy.
Yeah, that's not a terrible. I just look at them as a lazy team, Philly, right? Like they've had that stigma. They're like the Rockets of the East in the sense that they have a loaded team with Simmons and Embiid, and they had JJ Redick, and
Dude, they were a bounce away from going to the NBA Finals last year. A
yeah.
bounce away.
I understand, but that there's so many sports instances where we could say, well, that team almost it doesn't, and then they never get close again, right? Like we've seen it over and over.
Yeah, but you
Um,
also got a team like the Kansas City Royals, right? Losing
but
game
they
7
were,
to San Francisco
but they
Giants,
were
and then the very next year win the World Series.
right, but they were about right, but they didn't lose Jimmy Butler, who's an all-star every year. Like Jimmy Butler was a big part of that team. He balled out. He was a vocal leader in the sense that people used to think he was part of my words, a dick, because he would get on his teammates and they thought he was a tyrant a little bit, but make no mistake, man, he was there. He was out there showing out. He could play defense. He could match up on Kawhi. They're both two-way players. Obviously, he's not as good as Kawhi, but I mean, it's not. I know. Look, they can win, no problem. I'm not saying they can't. I'm just not sold that it's that easy, especially where, and I could be wrong here, but if they do play, and Brad Stevens has been essentially the mini genius, the boy genius has been preparing for this. He's had 3 months to prepare. 3 months. He's like Nick Saban preparing for a national title game when they used to have a month to prepare. But no, I mean, the Celtics, the only thing that bothers me is their guard play. I know Kyrie's was not well received, but when he had to turn it on, I feel like he could have. Jason Tatum's great, but do forwards really win in this league without guard? A guard play is so important now. So is coaching, but you're probably right. I'd probably lean towards Philly, but I think that's about it. Philly's not, they're not going to beat Milwaukee, in my opinion.
Okay. In the West, Lakers versus, let's say, let's make it interesting. Let's say Portland finds a way to get to that last seed, or even New Orleans. I love the New Orleans team. I would today, I would take New Orleans over Portland. Lonzo Ball has gotten a 3-point shot. He's playing much better. You still got Drew Holiday. You still got Brandon Ingram. You got Zion. Hopefully he stayed in the shape because he's a couple of brownies away from getting up to 280, 290. Let's see if he stayed in shape. These 6 weeks are going to be important for him to maybe stay in shape. We'll learn a lot about Zion coming up. How disciplined he is. Did he stay in shape these last couple of months? And is he going to work hard these next 6 weeks to get back into game shape?
He was also dealing with
Let's just
lawsuits.
say I'll take Portland in that 8 seed over Memphis, even though they got a 4-game decline. But in a 1-game series, I'm taking Portland over Memphis. So Portland versus the Lakers. Who are we taking?
Come on, the Lakers.
Take the Lakers. Clippers versus Dallas.
I'll tell you what, man. I'll tell no home court advantage, man. You get Luka and Kristaps healthy, balling. The Clippers are the easy choice, but if Porzingis is in shape and he's not hurt, and Luka Doncic is healthy again and not hurt, those are two really good players, man. You could say we could say what we say as Knicks fans about KP, but the talent was always there. The mindset might not have been. The entitlement was there. Obviously, he thought he was more important than maybe he was, but him and Luka, playing in Disney World, I just think there's going to be some things that we're not used to. You don't have to worry about travel. You don't there's no home court advantage. There's just a different emotion about no crowd, essentially. I could see Dallas beating the Clippers, and maybe I'm crazy, but I just can.
Okay, I'll take the Clippers.
I mean that's a
Denver.
smart pick.
Here's the matchup. And if you're Houston, you want to jump into Houston and Oklahoma City right now, both 9.5 games out, essentially tied, but the seeding goes right now to Oklahoma City. Houston's got to jump into that 5 seed because you don't want to see Denver in the first round, in my opinion. I'm just looking at this Houston Rockets roster, man. I'm looking at some veterans. I'm looking at some guys that can play defense, that can help you out. You still got a healthy DeMarre Carroll. You got Tyson Chandler on this roster. You got Covington who can score. Then, of course, obviously, you got Harden and Westbrook. But then you got PJ Tucker who can rebound and hit you a 3. Austin Rivers, who's a nice little player. Thabo Cephalosha. You got Jeff Green, Eric Gordon. I mean, this is a nice little team. Ben McLemore from Kansas, who you love so much, they can make a little bit of a run here, especially given this format. So I'm gonna have Houston jumping up to that 5th seed. So give me Denver versus Oklahoma City. I'm gonna take Denver. Then Houston versus Utah. I'm gonna take Houston. Give us Houston versus the Lakers in the second round.
I would like Houston to win. Can I ask a question? And it's a legitimate question. If Houston loses in the first round, can you fire D'Antoni after a 3-month hiatus, or do you blame the pandemic?
Well, he doesn't have a contract for next year, so you don't have to worry about that. So he wouldn't be fired. I would say yes, and then he'll probably be the head coach of the New Orleans Pelicans moving forward.
Okay,
because he's always just got to get a job. It doesn't matter. He's going to coach for every team in the league, right?
And he's a good coach. I mean, he's
Knicks.
He's a good coach. He's
Lakers.
Look, Mike D'Antoni is a professional basketball coach. He's obviously been to the conference finals multiple times. Can't get to the finals, can't go over that hump. But let's make no mistake, the guy knows offensive basketball. He's a pioneer in the sense of the 7 seconds or less offense. I get it. They were one
if
game.
Chris Paul plays in the 2017 Eastern Conference Finals, Houston had a 3-2 lead over the Golden State Warriors, a la the New York Knicks, had a 3-2 lead over the Houston Rockets in the 94 finals. Chris Paul didn't play, hamstring injury. Hey, we'll deal with that another day. But I mean, he's been there. He's been there. And now
Yeah,
you
but you know
got
what?
Russ. I would take Russ over Chris Paul
Mm, interesting.
because you can
I,
get Russ drive to the basket like he does, and I'm sure
yeah,
they'll
but
do
you
this
could
a little bit more, and
also
then
get
kick
you,
out to wide open Harden.
but you can get Russ going crazy and having 17 turnovers. Like Russ is like the ultimate like wild card because you're right. He's if not the one of the most athletic point guards the league has ever seen. He is a freight train for a guard. He is fast, agile. He's energy doesn't stop. He's a competitor. He's a throwback to the Kobe Jordan type mold of like I'm not your friend while we're playing. Um, but he can also get crazy, man. And we've always texted back and forth during games with him. Like where 1 minute he's balling, right? He's hitting threes, he's driving, he's dunking. And then he's running down the court at 100 miles an hour, throwing the ball into the third row. So which Russ are you going to get?
So 4.5 turnovers a game this season. 4.5 turnovers a game this season. Is that above or below his career average?
Probably above.
Good answer. So
Yeah.
4.1 career turnovers in his career, 4.5 this season. So it is a turnover machine. So right now, for me, I got Houston getting out of there with that 4th spot. The Lakers, I think, take care of them if everybody's healthy. Then you got Clippers and what would be sorry, I think I lost my train of thought versus Utah. This is what we want to see, right? We want to see the Clippers. We want to see the Lakers. We want to see Kawhi, LeBron. We want to see that, right? They're 1-1 against each other in the finals. Kawhi winning the MVP when they beat the Heat, and then LeBron the year before in 2013, the big shot by Ray Allen. So that's what we want to see. We've all forgotten about Paul George, Patrick Beverly, a lot of those guys on that team. To me, that's the Final Four: Clippers, Lakers, Milwaukee, Philly. For me.
Yeah, I mean it's fair. I see that. I would go like we said if everything remains status quo in terms of health. I go Milwaukee pretty easy over Philly. I know you said they were a bounce away, but I just think Milwaukee's just too good right now. They were having unless they come back rusty. If this year was any indication, they were clearly the best team in the East. You could argue they were the best team in the NBA, but clearly the best team in the East. The West, the Lakers and the Clippers. The Clippers had the Lakers number during the season. Even in the games they played, when the Lakers had leads and it looked like they were going to win the game, they lost games with leads, double-digit leads. So I think the Clippers have the advantage team and talent wise. But the 3-month layoff, giving LeBron a second set of legs, where he's usually played 1,000 or probably 1,000,000 minutes during a regular season and the playoff run, where you give probably the most athletic man the league has ever seen an extra 3 months to kind of get his legs back underneath him. I think he can go full bore. I mean, he could probably play because we know he's a freak, right? So he could probably play 48 minutes every game. Uh, I like the Lakers actually over the Clippers, even though the Clippers are a more complete team because I think, and I could be wrong, but if LeBron James wants to shut me up in terms of his mentality of wanting to dominate, he should have seen the reaction on Twitter because everybody's a competitor that's that great. He should have seen the reaction to the Last Dance on Twitter, right? People, saying the Jordan LeBron comparison was silly. Look how great Jordan is. So the world is essentially saying, you know what, we were stupid for even having this conversation. A lot of people. Now, everybody said that Kawhi Leonard was the best player in the NBA, or at least he was the most coveted free agent. He was the guy, right? He beat the Golden State Warriors essentially by himself in Toronto, a different country. And LeBron, if I'm him and I'm as great as he is, because he is great, I'm saying, all right, now I'm about to show out. And I still got it. And I'm telling everybody move out of the way, figuratively. I got this. Jump on my back, and let's roll. And if he doesn't do that and he starts passing the ball out to people on his team that are not named Anthony Davis, I'm done with him. I'm giving him one more chance. I've given him 15 chances, Alan, to shut me up. Give him one more shot.
We got our final four. I am gonna go with Philly to upset Milwaukee to get to the NBA
Wow.
Finals, and I'm gonna take the Lakers to edge out the Clippers in 6, and it'll be Clippers. It'll be Sixers and Lakers. Philly and LA, um, a la Allen Iverson and Kobe and Shaq. So we'll get that rematch from the 2000 NBA Finals.
Yeah. Iverson that was the only loss of that actual playoff run for the Lakers. They went, was it 11-1 or whatever it was? Or it was 3 games in the first round then? Might have been 3 games in the first round then.
Yep.
I mean, best of 5. You know what I meant? But do they stand a chance? If your prediction comes true and it's Philly versus either LA team, can they beat them?
I
know you can.
I take the Lakers in 6.
Yeah, me too. What about the Clippers? Let's say, because the Clippers can beat the Lakers. I mean, we were both picking the Lakers, but the Clippers can. I mean, anybody can really win, but the Clippers are a realistic chance to get to the finals. They play Philly. I don't. Yeah,
I just for me, and again, I don't pretend to be a basketball savant. I'm more football, baseball. But to me, a Lakers Philly matchup is tougher for the Lakers in the sense that you got Simmons, you got Embiid, guys that can play inside. And what Dwight Howard are we going to get? Are we going to get Dwight Howard and JaVale McGee, young guys, but who can stop them? Rather than you got a team like the Clippers that can do a little bit of a better job, I think, penetrating inside, force Simmons and these guys to shoot the ball and win. So that would be what I would be looking at. Either way, I'll take that Western Conference team to win. But I just think it's a tougher matchup for the Lakers against Philly than it is for the Lakers against the Clippers against the Lakers, than the Sixers. Sorry.
Now, would Milwaukee change your thought process at all? If Milwaukee cruises through the East and proves they're still the best in the East, do they have a chance against either LA team in your opinion? Because I think
It's going to take a lot for me to say who is we went over the roster. Who is the legit certified number 2 on Milwaukee right now?
I get that. No, you're right. And I don't disagree.
I mean, Middleton and Bledsoe, they can score.
But doesn't that team kind of remind you, I mean, shooting aside, doesn't that team remind you a little bit of how it's constructed, like the Mavericks that beat the Heat? You had Dirk and then you had a good supporting cast. And I know we've kind of gone away from that, the one superstar and pieces around him to the big 3. And then we kind of went back to the duos this year, right? Like we went to Anthony Davis and LeBron. We went to Paul George and Kawhi. Thank you. We went to Russell Westbrook and James Harden. So it's more of a duo league again, but I don't know if you necessarily need a duo of players, especially when you have arguably, you have the reigning MVP, right? And then you have a team that can shoot. You have a team that clearly is coached well, a team that led the NBA in wins during the regular season. I just think, look, I'm a doubter too. I'm not saying that I'm not. I just think that if they can cruise through the East, then maybe my opinion would start to change a little, because maybe they're better than I gave them credit for. Because the regular season is a lot different than the playoffs.
Yeah.
So,
but then the playoffs are going to be different based on this format.
You're right.
I'd be interested to see. It's going to be a test to see what Giannis and these guys do in the conference finals. Which I have them getting there. See how they handle any kind of defensive schemes, because hey, take him out. Not take him out completely, but take him out of the game, get him frustrated. And then are we going to see Ilyasova hit 5 threes? Are we going to see Dante DiVincenzo and Thanasis, Antetokounmpo, and all these guys? I mean, Brook Lopez get the rebounds, and Bledsoe and Middleton, they can shoot, but this is their chance now to shine, right? We waited forever to see Toronto, right, when they had DeRozan and the other guy, Lowry, and those guys. They always went up against LeBron. They lost. We always thought this was the year. Same thing with Milwaukee, right? Can they overcome it the way they did, the way Toronto did with Kawhi? Obviously, there's no Kawhi in Milwaukee, but we'll see.
People forget
more time on basketball than we've probably ever spent.
Yeah, but last thing I'll say about basketball is just what I am very interested in, like you said, is before the next podcast, I will look at the home road splits and the teams that we're talking about here. Who has the best home court advantage? Because that's gone.
Orlando does.
No, you know what I mean. I'm talking about the 4. What I'm saying is the 4 contenders. Who's going to be hurt the most by not being able to play at home, right? Because like Golden State was always like invincible at the Oracle, right? So it's like, which team is losing that? So I'm interested in that. And also, there was a lot of basketball pundits, Stephen A. Smith and other guys, on what was that show, Rachel Nichols show that I hate,
The jump.
The Jump. Yeah, those terrible analysts. Uh, Everybody was saying that the Greek Freak was best player in the NBA. They forgot about LeBron. They forgot about Durant because of his injury, and they forgot about Kyrie. Sorry, what's his name? Kawhi Leonard. Thank you. Sorry, they forgot about these
Kawhi
guys
twice.
But they forgot Kawhi Leonard won the championship last year. They forgot LeBron James is still LeBron James, and they forgot Kevin Durant. Let's make no bones about it. Injury aside, was probably on his way to becoming the best player in the NBA. So the Greek Freak has leapfrogged them all with one MVP. Well, now you got to win, because if you're the best player in the NBA, you got to be able to do this, especially now. You're in your prime. Everybody else is kind of either, they need load management, or they're 35 and older, or they've torn an Achilles. So this is it. Like you said, do it, or he needs to come out of that best player in the NBA conversation for me.
Yep. All right. So the MLB, we've had a lot of different variations. We talked about took basketball 3 months to figure this out. Baseball kind of in the same boat. They're trying to get something started sooner than later. We've had all sorts of proposals go out: 114 games, 50 games, 48 games. Right now, the MLPA came out with 114 games last week. The MLB denied it. The owners didn't want that. Then they came back with a 76 game schedule, 75% of a prorated salary. So it would be the game checks for 76 games and 75% of that. Then yesterday, the MLBPA came back off their 114, dropped it down 25 games to 89 games. It seems like they've agreed on the money. 75% of a pro rate. Obviously, the players want to play more games; they can make more money.
Right.
You would think the owners would want the same. Because there's more TV money or whatever. I mean, they're not going to get ticket sales. I think at some point, maybe in the fall, we might start to see some fans in the
I
seats
was
or
going to
something
say
like
that
that.
because they're already, I mean, I know it's NASCAR, but racing this week, they're allowing 1,000 fans down in Miami, and then Talladega. I think it's next week or a week or maybe 2 weeks. They're allowing even more fans. So, they could space out the fans. Obviously, you're not going to pack these buildings to capacity. You can't. But I think you're right. I think you may start to see fans. How much does that ease the financial burden for these owners? I don't know. But you're right. They've agreed on the 75%. Okay. I just think, maybe it's me being a spoiled baseball fan. I just, you have a baseball season that's not 100 games. It just seems so meh. Like even 81, even if they played 81 or 82 or whatever, it's half the season, man. It's like, it just doesn't resonate with me. That's what makes baseball so the dog days of summer, right? The grind, the playing every single day, the amount of games, the way you have to use your bullpen, how you have to rest starters. It's just I just don't know how I feel about it. I guess I'm gonna have to come to terms with it. But the 75% is great. Everybody's taking hits, but
But do we have a situation? Remember, we spoke a couple podcasts ago about they'll have the 3 10-game divisions to limit travel across the seaboards, Eastern Seaboard, West Coast, all these different things. I mean, what do they do then? How do you figure it out? Because a lot more travel in baseball, cross country travel, you got to get on a plane. You're more confined quarters on the NBA where, hey, you go check into your room on the West Wing, you got a lot C, you got a lot B, whatever it is. How do they figure that out? I think they'll come to, 76 and 89. In the middle is 81, 82 games. I think that's where they'll agree at it. And the prorated salary, 75% of the prorate. I'm not a fan of that. Should be 100, but I understand both sides of the aisle. But I'm just wondering on the logistics of how you get all this going. And they mentioned, hey, you'll have spring training in your home park. Well, Yankee Stadium only holds one baseball field. If you go to Tampa Complex or you go to Jupiter, Florida, where the Marlins and these guys play, it's multiple baseball fields where multiple guys can work out. It's only one diamond. So
yeah.
I guess everybody's going to be taking, BP on one spot, waiting. Ball. I mean, it's just interesting to see how they'll be able to ramp everybody up in the 3 to 4 weeks. They got to get a deal done. Today's Thursday, excuse me. They got to get a deal done by the early next week to start at least mid-July, because both parties have already said they don't want the regular season to go past September 27th.
Yeah, I don't know because they already MLBPA said they would go to October 31st. I guess that's unrealistic considering, like you said, how winters are in the Northeast and other parts of the country and stuff. But you strike a good point that I really didn't think about that much, and it actually goes to the point of not even the East to West. It's just travel in general. So basketball is going to play in a complex, and they're going to restrict even family members from coming until in between, series or what have you, and that's effective, I would say. But even if you're just traveling along the Eastern Seaboard, whether you're taking a bus or you're taking a train or you're taking a plane, you're going to be confined into small quarters, close quarters. So I just don't understand how containing it on the Eastern Seaboard. If the Yankees play the Marlins, right? Okay, so that's a 3 hour flight. Let's say just so that, but if the Yankees play, I don't know, the Texas Rangers, but they have to fly to like it was like the flight is what to Texas, 4 hours.
4 hours, 4.5.
So yeah, when I flew to Austin, it wasn't. It was an easy flight actually. It was So I don't see the difference in going to a different time zone than if you're flying to Miami. It's not like they're all just playing in like New York, Philly, and City Field and Baltimore. Like we're talking, the whole coast. So I just don't understand that part of the proposal because it's not like they're limiting travel altogether. They're just
And
kind of
as well as with the NBA, everybody's in these hotel rooms are there. But I mean, if
right,
you're in the Yankees, you're going to your home in New Jersey, you're going to your home in
right.
Connecticut, you're
That's what I'm
going to
saying.
home in upstate New York City. You're dealing with the elevators. I mean, there's just a lot more chance for contamination. So I just,
Especially,
you know, it's
especially high, like you said, New York, right? A lot of these players live in the city. A lot of these players could afford to rent a place somewhere else, but without getting in their pockets. I mean, you're talking about New York City, which has more COVID cases than any other country in the world. So, they're at more risk than, a team like the Arizona Diamondbacks. I mean, bad example because of Arizona's cases going up, but you get what I'm saying. A more rural area, places with lower cases of COVID. I mean, you figure that's a more dangerous place. And like you said, they're not going to be quarantined. They're going to be going to their apartment and then maybe local restaurants and this and that and the barber shop. Who knows what they're going to be doing? I mean, essentially, they're running the basketball like a prison, not in a bad sense, but I mean, not in a bad sense, but in the sense that, like, listen, we have to
a
keep
lockdown.
this. Yeah, it's on lockdown. We have to keep this, and we have to keep it contained. And even though it's not a prison, I don't want to say that, but they are trying to minimize how a virus could get in, how a virus could get out, and that baseball just seems like, all right, well, we're just gonna keep them on the East Coast. Oh, yeah, that should work.
Yeah.
Can they can each team rent a hotel possibly? See, that's another big expense for a team. Can they rent a hotel even when they're home? Keep the team in the hotel, rent out the hotel, keep the team in the hotel, and then when the other team came in, they'd have to stay at a separate hotel. But this way, it kind of alleviates the going home and the barbershop and the pizzeria. I don't know the answer, but I just feel like you said I didn't even think about moving freely being such a big deal because it will be.
Yeah. It's Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do, but they gotta agree to it first. I mean, how do they figure out the money? And I get it, these owners are all rich, and we think about the Yankees and the Red Sox and the Dodgers and all these big market teams, but there's a lot of other smaller market teams, and how do they come up with the revenue to pay these players? Obviously, there'll be revenue sharing. They're talking about maybe putting up together $1 billion and making a cap of the billion for the pro rate, and then splitting the playoff money of about 500 million to the players as well. They're talking about a 2-year institute of 16 playoff teams. I mean, all these crazy things, and you think to me, like, so many smart people in the room, they can't figure this out.
I actually like your proposal that you said off air. You should share it because it makes sense where you kind of, it's almost like with the mortgage forgiveness that a lot of banks have been doing where if you have a 30-year mortgage, well, now you have a 30-year and 3-month mortgage. You just push back that contract. So okay, Garrett Cole might be, he might not make it, teams might not love it, but it was a good idea by you where the sense that, all right, man, this is going to be a lost season for everybody. You're going to take a pay cut. The pizzeria down the street is obviously suffering, the hair salon's suffering, the owners are suffering, so we're all in this together. But we'll make good on the contract. We'll just push it back a year. Now, teams are going to have to deal with their 10-year deals and their 8-year deals that now they might be going into years of even elder age for the player. But hey, man, I think it's a fair. If you're not going to do a total prorate, like you said, you play 80 games, you get 80 games pay, then I think that's the next fairest thing.
Yeah, I just think this the season's a wash. No, every contract gets extended a year out. Um, Obviously, if you're a free agent, that's going to hurt you because you want that means that would mean your current contract would not lead into that. So there's got to be a way to figure that out. Like unless you can choose, either you want, and I don't know if the owners are going to give that much power to the players, but essentially you would choose to say, hey, keep my year the way it is on the prorate, or give me the blank slate and we'll come with a number that makes sense based on each team can only spend 50 million and then they split it up that way. Again, it would get tricky, but I just think if you don't want to forfeit Garrett Cole, you don't want to forfeit $30 million, why not just backload that later and then make an extra 9 to 10 million now? It's not like sports with football. Like, well, if I get hurt, I don't get my money. Well, you get hurt here. And your contract fully guaranteed. We've seen it right. Another players, right fielder, guys that got hurt and really short, still getting all their money. So that's an idea. But if you're going to be a free agent now, you bought off your player like Brian or something like that. Yeah, then you can make the choice of what you want to do. But I just think trying to figure out a way for the owners to say this percentage of the players, that percentage, make it where it's like there is a real choice. Players feel like they are having a choice. No, I'll take my 7 million and whatever. I won't or move my contract later.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a slip slope. Because we haven't even started the season like the NBA, where most of the season was already started. I think players have lost some of their salaries and they gave up something, but it's just a different scenario because they played a majority of the season. We haven't even get the season off the ground yet, which has been quite disappointing considering we don't even have a plan yet, let alone off the ground. So it's just a lot to take in. I hope that they make a deal because you've said it too. It's just going to make everybody look bad if they can't come up with something to play some sort of games.
Look, make no mistake about it. Baseball's been losing ground it was overtaken by football years ago. We knew that. And then the popularity of basketball has surged over the past decade or two to the point where I would consider baseball on a national level. In certain regions, baseball is still good, but baseball is still a very regional sport, right? Like when I'm the Yankees, or I'm a Yankee fan, I like to watch the Yankees. I don't really care that much about the Cardinals versus the Cubs unless it's the playoffs, right? Like I'll watch Sunday Night Baseball, but I'm always watching Sunday Night Football. I'm always watching the Lakers versus the Clippers. It's a more national game. So if baseball does this and they alienate their fans again, like they did kind of in 94, especially when their league had the most time outside of football doesn't count. They obviously have the most time, but they had the most time out of hockey, basketball, and baseball to really combat this because the shutdown essentially started in March before the season was even due to start. We're in June and they don't even have really a hammered down an actual plan. It is a very bad optic for billionaire owners, for millionaire players, and fans. Look, they've abandoned baseball before. They'll do it again. They have no empathy for a player or an owner that is saying, you know what, I don't want to play or I don't want to pay. And I got guys that are losing lives, losing businesses, losing jobs, and these guys are fighting over, astronomical amounts of money that most of us will never see. So they have to get it right. And that's really it. But we shall see. We'll see if they could figure it out.
Given if they are able to play a half season, who becomes a favorite in your mind?
I mean, I guess you still have to go the Yankees, maybe Houston, because I think this helps Houston, the fact that they don't have to deal with the vitriol of going to opposing ballparks and hearing them being called cheaters, being booed. Everybody knows the scandal now, but now they don't really have to face the music. They're playing in empty stadiums. So teams like that, in the NL, I'm trying to think. The Dodgers are always, Washington's defending champions. I liked what Philly did, but I don't think they're there yet. I think the Yankees probably still are favorites, but I don't know.
I'd say Washington too in the National League. I like, their arms. Obviously, you got Strasburg and Scherzer going on a full sled, to be able to throw. So, those guys, they just re-up Strasburg, so they'll be able to give him a lot of innings. And Scherzer, you go back to back. You don't have to stretch them out for a long season. They've had a lot of rest in that arms. Hopefully, it doesn't go back and hurt them too much. But I would look at Washington. I would look at Milwaukee getting Christian Yelich back. I think they have a couple of starters. They have a good bullpen. Obviously, the Yankees come to play. Um, we're going to be looking at the big trade with Arizona. Now you got Madison Bumgarner going in there. I like their lineup. Even the Mets. Right. I mean, Syndergaard's out. We knew he was going to be out at some point, but if you can go to DeGrom and Matz and some of their other arms, then, they're kind of starting to turn the page a little bit. Because they could be a player. So, Cleveland, they won 100 games last year and didn't even make the playoffs. So you got Cleveland, Minnesota. I just think, it should be the Yankees, but it wouldn't surprise me. Again, you got Houston that lost Garrett Cole, so you got a 1-2 punch of Verlander and Greinke, and then they'll go down the list with those guys. It'll be really, really interesting to see, how this season plays up. But, we got to get a plan in place. We have to be able to see, what is it actually going to look like? Are we going to have 75 games? Are we going to have 50 games? Are we going to have 100 games? And then, as I said earlier, the commissioner has the ability to set something in stone, and obviously he doesn't want to use that. Yesterday at the MLB draft, he said there will 100% be baseball. So that's kind of like that glass case, or if he breaks that and pushes that button, he's got that little nuclear weapon button that he can push and say, hey, well, it's going to be 60 games whether you like it or not. Here's what it is. I'm sure he doesn't want to do that, but it might come into a situation where he might have to, because with basketball now spreading into the summer, essentially all the way into the fall, then we're going to have football, college, hopefully, and NFL. I mean, baseball is in this tricky spot where, they shine in the summer, May, you got a little bit of playoffs, but, during the week, you got baseball. June, the NBA finals are over. Then they got July and August. That's all to themselves. And they're not going to have that anymore, especially if they don't get anything off the ground. I think a deal would be made, but it's got to get made in the next couple of days, because you can't stretch this in. We're already on June 11th. Next week's June 15th. They want it to start on July 4th. I mean, you can't rush these players back too. You got to get them in some sort of a throwing program, get them up to 80-90%, throwing in your backyard, throwing into a baseball net, hitting off of a tee. That's all good and fine to keep your muscle memory in the off season, but you need to hit off a live pitching. You need to get real spring training games. You got to get all that going to get ready. And I don't know how they do that. As we move over into football now, with preseason and the NFL wanting to go to 17 games on the next season, eventually 18 and extra playoff teams, they're thinking about eliminating 2 preseason games this year already off the top to knock it out. Maybe it's COVID related also too. Teams might realize, hey, we don't need to play that many preseason games to get started. So everything is right on schedule. Everything looks good. Tom Katarski had to run. I think he had a situation at home he had to take care of. So that's it for today. We ran long, but we're glad to be back. We're here on YouTube Live. You can check us out on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast, Alan and Katarski. We'll be back next week, hopefully with some updates from MLB, have a better understanding about the NBA, if that schedule is actually going to come out yet. So we'll be back next week, episode 186 for Tom Katarski. I'm Alan Cepeda. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.